And fuck, wrong button. Recording, but not recording on the other one. Now we're doubly recording with Dr. Jessica Rose and Mr. Matthew Crawford. And so today is Thursday, March 24th, 2022. We did our last episode, I don't know, like a month ago. In terms of everything we talked about last time, which like last time we started with Ferris data and ended with quantum computing and AI killing the world. I imagine we'll go on some sort of fever dream. Hi, kitty. And so with Ferris data, though, since our last episode, the CDC's come out and said that they did a whoopsie, and that they said that far many more kids died than actually died. And and Dr. Walensky has come out, I think 2 weeks ago, saying that the public misunderstood the science. They thought it was black and white, and the reality is the science is gray, and that the vaccines couldn't possibly be a single solution for everyone, which is weird because I thought that's what they've been saying at the threat of kicking you off a platform if you disagree for the last 24 months. But apparently, I don't know that. Dr. Rose, your thoughts on this?
Was that in reference to COVID deaths, that they had the coding error, or was it VAERS deaths?
That was coding COVID deaths.
Right. Yeah. Coding error. Is that code for something?
It's code for we're fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Walensky is just a classic example of someone who, I don't know, she can't answer a question properly, and she kind of struggles to give like cohesive answers to any kind of question, which is bizarre because she's the director of the CDC. It's just it's kind of inexplicable.
Right. You would think you would want somebody to focus on having what they're saying be understood when they stop talking. So in that position in particular.
Yeah.
It seems
she's not as bad as Kamala in the West and East and the time, and it's every day.
Did I do that? Time for us to do what we've been doing all along, and that
time is every day, Tommy.
What kind of? That sounds like some shit you say in like 12th grade when you're like too high in your friend's basement and their parents come down and they're like, Tommy, where do you want to go to college? You're like, I want to do the academics in the way that I always have been.
And that's every day.
That's every day. And it's like, why does the basement smell like pot? And but that's kind of the answer you give. Matthew, your thoughts on this?
I think that we are living in a show, basically. And it feels obvious. And I wish I could understand how obvious it is to how many people, but it's one giant show at the moment. And there's always been an element of show. There's always been certain facets of our governance of the world that's been sort of reality TV-esque, but that's been amplified so much recently. And we've seen this huge revolution of leadership, and I don't know how much this has to do with it, or whether it was something where people were just getting out of the way before it started. But right before the pandemic, we had this enormous wave of retirements of CEOs, senior staff in government, in certain positions, people who are not necessarily in the spotlight, but I wonder if they were just getting out of the way.
Didn't the Biden administration I think I saw yesterday, just hired a bunch of lawyers, and apparently it's in anticipation of
vaccine lawsuits?
Yeah, against for children with myocarditis.
Yep.
So why would they even need to hire lawyers then isn't that kind of built into warp speed though? Is that they're all immune?
Well, they're immune.
Go
ahead, Jessica.
No, I was just going to say, in order for something to even get EUA, what's that word? Approval. Yeah, authorization. Thank you. Emergency use authorization. It's in the word. They're the acronym. You need to have a product. If you're talking about a vaccine or a biological, that has been proven to be at least 50% efficacious. And I think these things for the kids, the data shows that they're 37. So they don't meet that approval. So if these things get turned over and put into kids, then that's illegal right there. And they probably know that. So that could be a reason why they're lawyering up.
Matthew?
Also, if there is any fraud in the process, those protections go away, right? So, and we're seeing a lot of actions that certainly look like the attempt to push the possibility of fraud away. And in fact, I'm involved in one now that's just sort of jaw-droppingly huge, which is that it looks like the DoD likely manipulated data before, prior to, what we know about the DMED story, prior to what Rents knew at the time during the January 25th hearing with Senator Johnson. I backtracked data and went back to early 2021, and I think I found the point where the data changed.
Wow.
Is there anything can you let on to any of that, or is that?
Yeah. Rents has put out a press release, and I wrote an article on it, so I can begin to talk about it now. I can't talk about everything,
Sure.
But yeah, the data had already been changed. The historical data had been changed as of the May 1st, 2021. I think they're called monthly surveillance medical reports or medical surveillance monthly reports. I can't remember. MSMR. So these are published every month. Once a year, there's a summary of all the ambulatory and hospitalization data for all the major diagnostic categories, categorized by ICD-10, which is a billing code, but it's a good way to categorize certain forms of medical data. And you look at these, and from the 2019 report to the 2021 report, which that was the last time 2016 and 2018 were reported on, the numbers for all the 2016, 2018 numbers just jumped, an average of like 13.5%.
Wow.
And that looks to me like the kind of jump you would want to lay down in order to mask safety signals. And the DoD is one of the partners of the entire CDC's system for passive pharmacovigilance for looking for safety signals. So it looks to me like in April of 2021 they panicked and said we have to elevate the past numbers because that's easier and we're less likely to get caught maybe than changing the current numbers. So the hospitalization reports didn't seem to change. The ambulatory reports jumped up 13.5%. And it's not uniform by category. And when you drill down, it's not uniform by ICD code. The more you look at the data, the more suspicious it looks, but that's out now. So, it feels pretty gigantic.
What day was that in April? Do you have the exact date?
No, I did my best to estimate it. I suspect that there was a partition.
Right.
I'm not going to talk any further on that one.
No worries.
Noted. All right.
Well, I confirm that using VAERS data because my role in this whole thing was to complement what Matthew and everyone else was finding within the DoD data with what we were saying in VAERS, because there were like quite a number of military reports in VAERS. So you click them off or you check them off by, it's a column called V admin by, so vaccine administered by, and it would be by a military staff. So that would be within the military context. So all of those reports that were filed within VAERS were from the military data. So let's say you plot 6 years back. I don't know if you saw these DoD charts. They went 6 years back and the data kind of looked like this before they changed it. And then they normalized everything to like this crazy this is 2021 and this is the last 5 years. So they normalized all the data in the botched data set. So it looks like this, which is a really dumb idea. So if you look at VAERS, it's exactly the same scene.
By the way, I don't think that chart was done correctly. And I think we should stop advertising it. The one where the ambulatory reports jumped by a factor of like 10. I think that was actually, I think that was actually a mistake. That was putting first occurrence reports with all occurrence reports.
Right.
Whereas in the MSMR, you could see that those past numbers were at like 19 million. So it was more like apples to apples.
Okay.
I've redone that, but like, and I'll probably be releasing it pretty soon. And my at a Substack article 4 or 5 articles ago where I did a line chart to kind of show the way that it had gone. But it was only recently that we had full 2021 data. And if you'd taken the 2021 data at the time, it would have looked about the same, but now we've had a complete year. Anyway, it'll get a little bit complicated, but none of those charts could have been correct, partially because the database had been manipulated but not set back up right, is what I think happened. I think the database wasn't set back up right, and then there were a couple of instances where I think all occurrence and first occurrence were confused. But you know, we'll sort all that out. But it doesn't look good for the DoD. You know, they really don't have a good explanation as to why the data changed at this critical moment, you know, right before May 1st, 2021.
So neither of those charts, Matthew, were correct?
No.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've been, and this is so complicated too, because once everybody gets charts in their hands, it's hard to steer everybody away from it.
Yes, because visuals are powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. So what it's going to look like, I think, is that you know, 2021 it's elevated on the whole, but to really be like large elevations, you have to drill down, right? It's like, you know, if you have an elevation of 15% on the whole, you're gonna have elevations of, you know, 1% in some category and then 60%
That's right.
in other. So I'm trying to sort it all out.
Right. So in deaths and VAERS, it looks like this for the military. Like 5 years ago, 5 years it was really
true.
And then like deaths in 2021, I think it's don't quote me on this, I think it's like 137, which is really an unusually high number of deaths reported by the military into VAERS. It's really, really significantly higher in 2021. So, you know, well, it's nice to hear that that's what it's still reflected in those charts. But yeah, it's amazing to me, because my line of thinking and my approach to try and like help with whatever I could do was either this one is correct or this one is correct. And either way, it's not looking good for them. So it's even worse now because neither is correct. It's like, wow. And anyway, wow, what a story. And it's not a story, it's our lives.
And the story is going to get deeper and deeper too. I found out yesterday, at least I was told this by a lieutenant colonel, that the data in the DMSS seems to be shipped out to Israel, to a foreign nation, before it comes back in the form that it is then entered into DMED.
No way. And what do you think happens in Israel to the data?
Who knows? But like there's I don't know who this company is, but I just found out about this yesterday, so I'm going to go through and read as much documentation as I can. But this company that has like a $100 million annual contract to run this database, and I don't know, maybe it's anonymization of the data, but I don't see why you don't have an American company. Like it seems to me like never ever schedule this data to go outside the United States.
Damn straight.
So like there are all kinds of weird facets to this. And then one of the whistleblowers, this story just weirder and weirder. I've got to share this with you, Jessica. One of the whistleblowers was on the stand in Florida in another case, and she was testifying about the DMED data, and one of the lawyers on the other side hands her this 4-page sheet that says there's an explanation for the glitch on it, by the way, and I'm pretty sure the explanation is wrong, but this 4-page affidavit, it's unsigned by anyone, right? Like that's totally inappropriate. It should never happen. It should never happen.
But it's not admissible in court.
Right? The judge admonished the other side for not even having brought an expert witness, right? So, but they handed this to Dr. Long, and they were like, this is the real explanation. You're wrong. Here's this thing that says what the actual numbers are. And granted, like the numbers that she was querying weren't right. It wasn't her fault, right? I mean, they had botched the database. I think that they manipulated the database, and that there was like a flaw left. And I can't explain that now. I've got to hold on to that for now. But so not all the numbers that they presented were correct, but the person who hands this to her, does so without any kind of explanation as to what happened with the MSMR in May, right? And I think that they know. I think, you know, I think they know damn well that the data was manipulated back then, and that's why they're keeping all the chain of evidence actually cut off. So like, have we ever seen this in American history? Like the military acting like, hey, we're not even going to have anybody where the buck stops. You know, these are blank pieces of paper. You can't know where they're coming from.
You know, that's exactly the point. And that's what I just said on Dell. I was just on Dell Big Tree. Shout out. That's the problem with this. That's the problem with the stock market, or I'm sorry, the housing market crash in 2007. The stopgap people are not doing their job. It's like the risk assessors in the case of the financial crash, they were the stopgap. They're the ones that say, these aren't worth anything. We're not going to give this a 95% rating and blah, blah, blah. They caused the whole thing, if you ask me. And now we have the same thing happening where the FDA is the stopgap. Like, they're the ones who are supposed to be protecting us from the pharma companies, because the pharma companies aren't here to make you healthy people. They're here to make money. That's their model. And Pfizer itself, who we all know is in charge of one of these mRNA products, has paid out the most in suing money. It's like 2.3 billion or 3.2 billion. I can't remember exactly, but they've paid the most out for having, you know, being sued by people who had bad responses to their drugs or their products. So like, we need medical regulators. We need these people to be doing their jobs, and they're not. And that's why we're in this crisis now, which is only going to grow. You know, instead of a housing market crash, we're going to have a human physical being crash. Like, to be frank, I mean, I don't know how extensive this is going to be, but it doesn't look like, it doesn't look good from the data when you incorporate the underreporting factor. You know what I mean? It's like, anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there. These bloody people need to do their jobs.
Did y'all see that thing from like a couple weeks ago? It was like AstraZeneca and J&J are like teaming. There's like some tweet from the Johnson & Johnson account, and it was like, we're teaming together to create a new mRNA. They're creating a new mRNA product to treat like myocarditis.
Wow.
Priceless.
Yeah.
Oh God, we're gonna give you a headache and then sell you a drug for it.
No, but seriously, that's Dick Cheney opening like a mental health institute after like the Iraq war to deal with PTSD. Like, Jesus, dude, there's no depths. But Matthew, you were about to say something before I rudely cut you off.
Oh, I don't know. I don't even remember what I was going to say, but what we have in leadership is clearly something that is going in some kind of a direction. There is some kind of an event that is being worked, right? Like this level, this level of paving everything over one level and then again and again and again. This is not even the mortgage bond crisis. This is like, 2 levels beyond that, right? Because of all the lies that were told, it never got, we never had people sort of dragged out and had their careers ruined for telling the truth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can think of one person, but
right.
not for the most part. The DoD is involved in so much right now. I'm not even sure that the medical side of this will be as large as the financial side of all this when all is said and done. In fact, I think that the financial side is larger. I think that we have this giant financial collapse coming, and I have worried that the pandemic was sort of organized to be like this, partially as a way to get out from under the craziness of the financial world. There's clearly a currency war that has been going on between the US, Russia, China, and everybody else who was trying to figure out how to play the post-mortgage bond collapse world. But then, when the supply lines begin to collapse, a lot of fiat currencies become worth less. And even if they all become worth less, the dollar becomes worth more because everybody else's fiat currency is feeding into it. as sort of a rush to stability, a flight to quality is the phrase usually used. But where does that go? It looks like all that points back to the DoD too. Catherine Austin Fitts pointed out, hey, the DoD had $20 trillion handed to it by the Federal Reserve from 1998 to 2015. Meanwhile, we see like $6 trillion extra dollars of investment capital show up in China. We see the US get out of Iraq, and China walk in. Like what is going on with that play? What is going on with the DoD? What is going on with the entire state of governance in the world? So I think that it's all part of the same thing, and that's why it's going levels deeper than we could ordinarily take in.
There's a quote I saw that was like the end of the war on terror. You're watching a master level. This is from March 19th. You're watching a master level Ponzi scheme. The end of the war on terror was laundered out through the 2020 crash. The 2020 crash got laundered through COVID bailouts. COVID bailouts got laundered through inflation. Inflation gets laundered through the war in Ukraine. The war and its effect on the globe will be laundered through climate change and the perps walk. It seems like it's one big ching, 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 just diffuse out into the atmosphere, and no one knows who did it.
But it's so quick.
Yeah.
Right. The rate of change is increasing rapidly.
If it wasn't, there are so many guests I interview that I always fear it's going to get me killed, and I think it might actually be you two, not Dr. guys that construct the nuclear weapons. I'm starting to think it's this. I think this is where I get my head blown off. So thank you, Dr. Rose and Matthew.
You're welcome. We'll go down together, brothers in arms. Brothers in arms.
I don't think you have a choice. I think we all go down together. It's good. I don't think it's just me. But so Matthew, do you think that's what it is? You said that you think the financial side is going to be far larger, because that's a good point, right? 2008, we all know that. Right, all the bankers walked, nothing really happened. There was some reform, but for the most part, all the guys, all the CEOs, they're just fine, right? Not a single one went to jail. There's never been what we're seeing now, where like a Dr. Malone, Dr. McCullough, Joe Rogan, they're getting just pulled through the mud, right? To me, that's a good point I hadn't thought of. It does seem like that would just lead one to imagine that this isn't the normal upper class fucking you kind of thing. It seems like this is something much bigger.
Yeah, and I've tried to have I feel like they are also having a few people speak in their ears who are misguiding them. I worry about that, and I don't know. I see misdescription of a lot of the problems, and it's just too difficult. You can't get everybody in the room long enough. You have these two domains. The world is chopped up into all these specialists, right? And they live in this big maze. We all live in this big maze where the more we specialize in an area, the more we know our domain of the maze, but you can't know the whole maze. There's just not enough time. You can't. So when you begin to see the conspiracy theory in your realm, you can talk to it with about 10% of the people in your realm, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe like 70% of the people are just totally brainwashed, but you can talk with 10% at least. But if you go to another realm and you start talking with them there about what you see in your realm, they all think you're crazy, even though you're actually the expert. When you have these two big realms, medicine and finance, and the people telling the truth over here are being viewed as conspiracy theorists by everyone here. People telling the truth over here are being viewed as conspiracy theorists by everyone here. It is very, very difficult to get an intersection in order to construct the kind of reality that you would need in order to make fruitful moves.
Fruity Fruit Loops.
So what is the big enchilada? What is the big conspiracy that they're all kind of meeting together in, right?
Kitty.
Hi, Kitty.
Hey. Hello.
People that are listening to this and not watching just think we're insane because every 10 minutes you just hear, hi, Kitty.
There's a big fat orange kitty in Matthew's lap. Hello.
I usually close the door, but I ran into my office and he ran in after me.
Oh, he's welcome. But
mine is number 2.
Matthew, if you could wildly speculate, which is what this podcast is not only good for, but pretty much the only thing we do here is wild speculation. What could you speculate is the big enchilada, the multiple different mazes that we can know our own part? I can know the podcast maze. I can tell you about how I've been shadow banned or suppressed, but the second someone starts talking to me about finance or the used car market or medicine, I'm drooling, I'm slack-jawed. I don't know what they're talking about. Same thing when I start telling them about manipulation of my own growth on the podcast, they're looking at me like I'm insane. What do you think is, if you take all these different slices of the maze that makes up the world, what do you think because you said you think the financial side's bigger than the medicine side?
Oh, way bigger.
So do you think this is just another, not that makes it any better, but it's just another money grab, that there's been transfers of wealth all throughout human history? Is this just the latest way that they're fucking us?
No, I think it's larger. I think that the leadership does not know how to continue into the future.
Yeah.
And is scared. Like, they're scared that they're going to run out of oil, right? And there's this giant misunderstanding about peak oil, because you can have the most successful civilization in the universe that goes out to the stars, populates the galaxy, whatever, and there will necessarily be peak oil for that civilization. It will go up, and then it will begin to go back down again as technology feedback loops, make that the use of the oil more efficient, or find other resources gradually. But in the meantime, they've been miseducating people very badly in the West, right? Our society used to be, person per person, sort of, much smarter. We have this Prussian style education system where everybody was miseducated while they were moving jobs east. And I think that this was a matter of corporations sort of taking control of governance themselves, but they really didn't know how. They were shipping so many jobs east. Not that people in the East, don't deserve jobs or anything, but they were creating a schism in society and sort of an imbalance of who could have input in society. And so they cut off the healthy societal feedback loops in terms of understanding what the problems were. And now they look back and they go, you know what, we're telling everybody we're heading toward this singularity, but we actually don't know how to navigate the next step. So the only way that we know how to navigate it may be to cut off a certain portion of the people. I mean, I don't know, and this is speculation. I'm not saying this is what's going on, but it feels that way, right? Whereas if perhaps everybody had simply been educated, you had all kinds of people running, their own small technology businesses, their own small business, period. All business is technology, right? If something is worth investing in, then you invest $1 in it and you get more output than input. And that is where you get the singularity curve. It's all just, it's just an exponential function, just rises gradually. And I think that the more power has been put in one place, the more you have a few people who can't manage it all.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't need to be managed. The economy is not a thing that was designed, so it's not designed to be managed. But those people look down, and any mistake that they make becomes amplified to so many orders of magnitude. And this is the failure of top-down systems. We have to have a bottom-up system, and now we have this one new thing. This, if Bitcoin really is a challenge to dollar dominance, then we have this tension between the top-down and the bottom-up. Whereas everything has been going more top-down over the years, and now suddenly you have this one thing that may cut off a lot of that mechanism. Are the people at the top struggling to both survive themselves, keep enough resources around that they think will be needed for the next era, maintain their control? When you imagine what their perspective might be, it begins to get weird, and you can see the chaos, even if you can't completely describe it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just trying to put words together as I can.
I think that makes sense.
Me too.
If you don't know what's coming, if you know an emergency is coming, but that's it. I mean, you'd make sure you had a basement. You'd maybe make sure that you had like a vault door. You'd make sure you had food, water. You need matches. Do we need penicillin? Probably need some guns. Probably need some shovels, some radios. What's coming? Is it a tornado? Is it a flood? Is it a riot? Is it a stampede? Is it a bunch of snow? Is it a fire? You don't know, but there is like a certain amount of base emergency that, like, if I just didn't tell you what the emergency was, right? If I told you you could bring one cheat sheet into an exam, but I don't get to tell you what exam it is, you try to bring in the core things from each of your classes. And then whether it was a physics exam or a biology exam or a calculus exam, you'd have, right? You'd want to try to hedge your bet so you could at least get away with some sort of passing grade. I think that probably makes the most sense. They were approaching this insane frontier of just it's all expanding so quickly with nanotechnology and supercomputing and space travel and
Artificial
population booms.
intelligence.
Yeah, artificial intelligence and population booms and limited resources, and we're acidifying the oceans and climate change. It just might be this thing where they can't possibly see what it is, and because it's kind of developed into this top-down system, it's become clunky and it's collapsing under its own weight, and it doesn't have that sort of natural intelligence of a whole bunch of individuals looking forward. That maybe there's just this sort of buy all the wheat, buy all the oil, build some bunkers, and we don't know what's coming, because it might not even be survival. They might be looking at, they might not even be concerned about survival. They might just be looking at, there's this new wave coming of VR and Bitcoin and quantum computing where we might lose our power. Like our actual, we don't get to be in charge anymore. And to you and I, we look at it as like, oh, we're going to be fine. It's just the next stage of humanity. And but they're going, no, there's been like an elite for the past 5,000 years. And they might be going, we don't want that. Fuck, I have no idea.
I actually think that level of talk about the singularity is actually a facade. That's we are nowhere near anything like AGI.
I don't think so.
I don't even believe in AGI. We have these measurements of things called Lyapunov exponents that quantify differentials between, like a state of operation in a system and let's say reality or something like that. There's no measurement of zero Lyapunov exponents. There's some kernel that then explodes in your sort of chaos theory. I can't remember what that effect is, but so long as there's some kernel of difference between the truth and the model, it eventually diverges, right? But I think the technologists have been telling the elite stories that were so grandiose that the elite were misinvesting in the technologists for decades now, and that this is part of the problem too. Is that when finances become so centralized, and then you have such misallocation. Yeah, and nobody really knows who to blame, and everybody's pointing fingers everywhere else. And here's an example: Theranos. You had all these elites pushing money through. What's her name? Is it Elizabeth Holmes?
Yeah. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And you have all this money going in, and it looks like a sham, right? I mean, I'll say it looks like a sham. I actually think that's been going on in nearly all of the sexy technological spaces. And then people go, oh, maybe it's the end of technology. There's nothing new under the sun. I'm just like, oh God, no. It's because you've been over centralizing all technological investment. And so all the technology that we have been creating that has been moving forward has been asymmetric technology. How do you spy on other human beings? How do you create a cage that people can't get out of? How do you tag people so that you can watch them? And then you have this watcher class, and they're removed from the entire process of producing within a technological civilization, right? That's how you construct something that will break down, because eventually it's too top heavy. And even if you have an exponential rise in productivity, the fact that you stopped investing in symmetric productivity and just started investing in surveillance technology means that you are cutting off your own neck, right? You're cutting off your own head. So I think that these are all pieces of it that fit in together. And I feel like I'm getting into spaces where I'm trying to find the words as I go.
No, I don't. Trust me, I do it every day on this podcast. You get kind of close to like an idea, and it's like you're like feeling around in the dark, and you're like you feel shape. And you're trying to put together words, and it's no, but the general, I know what you're talking about. But I think that's probably the most accurate thing is it's any difference between the model and reality when amplified enough. It's like when you start learning like chemistry or something, they always start by telling you like, hey, like the model we're going to teach you is incorrect. Like the electrons aren't orbiting like planets. But for all intents and purposes of that class, that's fine. But once you start making a hyper realistic simulation, you have to include that it's like probability orbits, right? Because otherwise it does kind of propagate outwards to the point where the changes start to become too meaningful to ignore. It's probably something like that. It's when you have a very top heavy system and they're sold the bill of goods of, this is the future and it's all invested in there. It might work well for a while, like a general chemistry class. And that may be what we've seen for the past 50 years. It seems like it's working. Got internet, we got touchscreen phones, we got Uber. But as the system gets more and more in depth and it's applied over a greater and greater population and then eventually the entire planet, then we start to see the meaningful deviations in what it is. And I don't know what that would be. Am I getting anywhere close to what you were saying, Matthew?
I wasn't thinking about it as whether it was close to what I was saying. I was just listening. I think I'm in a blank for the moment. I've been getting too little sleep and doing too many things the last few days. I'm going to pass for a moment.
No, you're fine. I think we should shirk all responsibility and throw it on Dr. Rose, because Dr. Rose hasn't talked in 10 minutes. Dr. Rose, your thoughts on all of this? I think she is frozen. Is she frozen for you?
Yeah, I think so. All right. Yeah, I think that for 50 years, I'll try to do this justice. I think that for 50 years, there has been this process of intentionally neutering the West by like I said earlier, shipping some jobs out. But I think that what they really want is to have a balanced East-West. This is when I say they, I mean the oligarchs who have enough power to move that level of finance. I think that they were able to get into the U.S. government, get a hold of all the controls of power to really be able to move that much money around. I think that they wanted to balance the East and the West and turn us all into serfs and have a fake competition between us, right? And it's interesting when I talk with people that I know who live in China or have lived in China recently. I find that they tell me that China has changed in the last 10 years dramatically in the same way that we're watching our culture war, right? Clearly the US is,
Dr. Rose, yeah, we saw you disappear.
You're back with us.
My whole room and turned off the internet, of course, because, the connection sucks. And then when I guess I was off then, there was this boom of thunder, like that was so loud that it shook the house. It's crazy storm. That's where I went.
Well, I'm glad you're alive.
Yeah, well, geez, the lightning felt like it was right there outside the window. It was so bright. Jeez. I can't believe you guys didn't see it.
Oh, you just vanished.
I guess you froze right as it happened. It was one of those.
Yeah, it was like flamenco.
Yeah. That happened once last year to my buddy Roger in New Orleans. There's a hurricane, and there was like the last frame his computer captured was like his power going out, and it was him like he was too fast for him to notice. He was just talking, but like for half a frame, like you could see the power in his house go out while his computer was still on. So all of a sudden he was just dark, and then it vanished. And I got a call from him. He's like, no power. But Matthew, I think you're correct in what you were saying, in that the individuals that do have enough power to influence the rise of nations, I think you're right. I think whoever it is, whoever they are, the elite, I think a strong America has been the big, not even some nationalism sense. I think a strong West based on, human rights and civil liberties and freedom and free flow of information. I think that has been the biggest thorn in their side. And because it became so powerful after World War II, it's taken 50 years to weaken it. Brigadier General Robert Spalding talks about it in his book, Stealth War. I've had him on here. He was a one-star general in Obama's National Security Council, but he talks about it, how it's been a very long, slow, not outright war, but it's been infiltration of the government. It's been economic. It's been cultural. It's been social, and what they want is a strong East and a strong West. Whether the East is Russia or whether it's China, it doesn't matter. You want a bipolar world. You don't want a unipolar America, fuck yeah, kind of world police, because that sucks for anyone that wants to pit the world against each other. And I think you're probably correct. They want a bipolar world because when you have like a Cold War type thing, you can do all sorts of shady shit when you constantly have a boogeyman on the other side. When you just have America kind of laying down the law against a bunch of smaller nations, you can't really pit the population against each other, and thus you can't do divide and conquer.
Yeah, the bipolar circumstance is a means to an end. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think they care. They just want the divide and governance aspect. They want to be able to govern, and they want to be able to maintain as the parasitic class. Speaking of which, has anybody heard all these stories about like where all the billionaires have gone during the pandemic?
No, but where have they gone?
There were stories about billionaires buying homes in New Zealand right before the pandemic, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
But then the two Google founders went off and they're like they've been living on their private islands. And my understanding is like maybe like the whole time. But here's one that I got personal information about. This is interesting. So I was in a meeting in May of 2019 in Atlanta, and somebody there had documents in their hands from James Cameron, who reached out to all his friends, said, hey, we need to like pool $250 million, have this big crypto fund together, all move to New Zealand and hide from what's about to come down. And it was vague and weird. And, you know, so later that year, I found out he had in fact moved to New Zealand. So he moved to New Zealand, started organic farming, had this ethic of like, you know, no cows because they burp and that's global warming, right? But apparently after 1 year of organic farming, found out you can't do that. So he has a cow. And there's an article about this from New Zealand about like his neighbors like peeking over the fence, like, you know, making sure he understood what farming really meant. But he really did. He thought that the world was about to go through some great cataclysm, apparently, and did move to New Zealand. And is, you know, he's doing the farm and hide from civilization thing.
Fuck's in New Zealand though. Why hide from there?
Oh man, great waves, beautiful landscapes.
Yeah, and he filmed some movies there apparently.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
Have you heard of these
Wow.
Lord of the Rings movies?
I never heard of it.
No. But no, that makes sense. I love Dr. Rose's outlook. In my mind, I'm like, what's the tactical Armageddon advantage? Dr. Rose is like, great waves.
In global conflict, you're not in anybody's way.
Yeah.
And you don't need that much oil to be part of society there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like 1 million something people. That's all, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know.
Lots of earthquakes and potential for tsunamis, though.
I guess so, but it's pretty.
Yep. Yeah, pretty.
I can't fault anybody who'd want to live there. I mean, you know, not with the pandemic policy from the past 2 years. Otherwise,
So
yeah, you'd have to tolerate Jacinda.
So Matthew, do you think then what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, do you think that plays into the theory of us wanting a bipolar world? Or they?
Yeah, I was thinking about. I thought about this a lot lately. So there are a lot of people who have this theory of this being a controlled war, and that's very possibly true, right? Like I don't know what's going on. Like I don't want anybody to like, you know, tweet at me and be like, you know, you don't know what's going on. Of course, I don't know what's going on there. You know, we don't have enough images. Like we see and hear images of like, you know, Russia using its worst, like its throwaway military equipment. Like I don't know, but you know, if what you wanted was to justify rising prices for everything, and maybe even shutting off the spigot of Russian oil, and starving 2 billion people.
Yeah.
You know, we're pulling billions of dollars of food off the market, right? I mean, people talk about the wheat, but then there's the sunflower oil, and you've got, you know, all these countries in the Middle East, North Africa, that depend on vast amounts of that coming out of Ukraine. But then really Russia will probably be a net importer of food, I assume, with the, you know, Ukraine and Russia both being sort of shut off from that. They're both going to need to import food, but shutting off the gas and you know, will they blow up the pipelines through Belarus, right? That's the discussion about, you know, retreating Ukrainians. And then they're already in Europe not producing as much fertilizer because the gas is so expensive. Well, what happens when it's not there? You know, and that's a huge feedback loop. We've already seen fertilizer prices double, and the market's expecting it to double again this year, right?
Mhm.
Are we going to see 2-3 billion people, you know, die because we have these interdependent feedback loops, and somebody really just decided they didn't want to manage all of what was going on, so we're just going to have a controlled war in Russia, Ukraine, cut off the food supply of the world, and then we'll go back to normal.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but that it's a plausible theory. It feels like a reasonable map of reality right now, sadly.
Yeah. No, and don't worry about people attacking you. If you use any critical thinking, they're going to attack you, so it doesn't matter. But no, I mean, to me, I just look at like the layout of it. Massive media blitz. There's one side that's socially acceptable for you to have, but if you have an opinion on the other side, you're automatically a Nazi. If you even try to hear out what a devil's advocate explanation could be, you're a Nazi. Everyone changes their profile picture. Everyone's in lockstep. Every corporation's in lockstep. And no one's allowed to question this. It just, and I don't know, I have no idea what's going on. I'm 31 with a biology degree, no military experience, in an apartment in Maryland. I'm absolutely aware I have no idea what's going on. It just seems too convenient that all of a sudden it's Putin's oil prices, it's Putin's inflation. Putin, who's been there for 20, he just snapped and said, fuck Ukraine. There's no US biolabs there. There's not something going on. It just so happens that they can use this to cut off oil and cut off the breadbasket of Europe. I don't know, man. It seems a little too. If China invaded Taiwan, I'd be like, well, that's just bad timing. This is just fucking weird. I don't know. Dr. Rose, we haven't let you talk in like 30 minutes.
Well, I was just thinking, like, I have a kind of a childish approach to a lot of complicated issues. Not childish, childlike. Because I do often think, like, back to what I would have thought, or what I did think when I was young. And I remember, you know, I grew up in the 80s. I was born in the 70s, and I remember the demonization of Russia. You know, we all know about that. It's always been, it's horrifying, because I've never even been to Russia, and I have a lot of Russian friends that I love, and all I've ever heard in media, I suppose, and from presidents and prime ministers are negative connotations associated with Russia. And I had no way to validate it, but it gets in here, you know, gets in here when you're young, and programming. And so I've kind of avoided this topic, but you can't now, and it gets in. And I've heard some very intelligent things said, like what you just said, about what might be going on. And I came to the conclusion the other day that it appears as though everything I've ever been told, not just on this subject matter, but on anything to do with controlling the world, has been a frickin' lie. Like, and it might even be the opposite. I mean, like 180 degrees in the opposite direction. I'm not saying it is, but what if it is? And I always have to ask that question. What if this is absolutely a fucking bold-faced lie that we're being told about the, you know, the reason this is happening?
Yeah.
What if, and it's the same, you know, it's the same, we can reel it back to the COVID crap. It's like, what if this whole bloody thing has been a freaking lie? And I think that also brings it back to the mass psychosis that we're witnessing. It's like, it has to be that way, because if your whole life turns out to be a bloody lie, you know, most people, I guess, won't be able to psychologically face that reality.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but
No, it's perfect. It's not only
oh,
could everything be
okay.
wrong.
I'll go then.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
kidding.
No, it was perfect. It's not only could everything be wrong, it could also be the entirely exact opposite. Like, because once you entertain that it could be wrong, you're thus entertaining that you don't know what the answer is, and that means that, hey, what if we're the bad guys? What if we're
Right.
fucking in this world? And that's not comfortable, as I can say with a guy with an American flag behind me. What if we're fucking up the world? No one batted an eye when we invaded Iraq. That was a
Well,
soft.
apparently a lot of people on the other side of the world think the US is fucking up the rest of the world. We
Yeah.
even make mocking movies about it, like America. You know, that's what that movie is about.
Matt
We're gonna
Damon.
save the world from ourselves, ruining every place.
Matt
And
Damon.
I live in the Matt Damon. I love Matt Damon. I live in the Middle East, and so I have like a different perspective on stuff that I had when I lived in North America. 15 years is, you know, it's a decent enough amount of time to kind of assess the cultural differences and the, you know, the mentality differences. And I'm not saying I'm an expert or anything, but it occurs to me sometimes that it's like, wow, everyone on my side of the world where I come from is so freaking naive to so much of what's going on in the world. Like, I'm not saying there isn't good in the world, but there's a lot of bad going on. And I don't think most people in the West are even aware of it, because I think it's, you know, it's all glitz and glamour, and everyone basically has a decent quality of life. Maybe not so much in the States for the last decade. You know, I hear people are selling their plasma to feed themselves in some places, but I don't hear that. I know that that's true. There's a documentary about it. It's the saddest thing I ever heard. But like I'm from Canada, and I know even my own family, and they're brainiacs with PhDs and stuff. They have no idea what's going on in many places in the world. Mostly it's because they haven't been. So if you don't see something with your eyes, it's hard to like make that realistic connection. But it's like, it's so important to doubt everything. And I know how hard that is, but it's like, yeah, it puts you into a tailspin. And it's exactly what you said. It's like this, I don't have a freaking clue what's going on anymore. I have no idea. And it always reels back to the conclusion that this thing that we're in, this existence, reality, whatever it is, it's like, it seems to always come back to the individual experiences that you're having, like with singular beings. And those are the pivotal moments in life. So it's like, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. It's like,
you're hitting the nail on the head. It's
okay.
at a
I
certain
can't
point-
believe anyone understands what I'm saying.
No, I do.
Yeah, I'm listening, and what I hear, what you're describing, and I think this feeds into the mass psychosis thing, and there's a piece that I want to try to insert into that conversation. But people are set up with a cognitive dissonance. People are set up with this thing that would snap back. The reflex would be too hard for most people to handle it, right? And this is why we need such a brutal, you know, Prussian educational system. This is why we need, you know, this is why a lot of the lies are erected. You set people up with too much cognitive dissonance for them to then examine what the reality of the situation is. I think that the world, though, is now changing so fast that there's no way to stop some of those people from having that snapback reaction, like an earthquake in their own head, and coming to realize what's going on. I actually think that that's affecting our sort of side of the pandemic. You know, like I said, I think that there are many people sort of on our side of, hey, we need truth in medicine, truth in this, truth in that. I think that many of them have gone through the personal earthquake. And because of that, they're in moments where they can't see the whole big picture yet. You know, they're having to manage their own earthquake, perhaps.
Yeah.
But I think that that's part of the mass psychosis. I think that people are set up with, well, one, that there's a promise, there's sort of a heaven. It's almost like, suicide bombers, which goes back 1,000 years to the Hashishim, where these boys were taken, before puberty, but they were, wined and dined and sexed, where they were drugged, taken to, beautiful garden, wined and dined and sexed, and told that was heaven, told that they had a vision of heaven. And, you spend a week in that and you come out and you're told that you believe that's heaven. You're 13 years old. And now you're willing to do anything to get back there. In a sense, we are raised with a lesser version of that within the school systems. And right now, the promise of that seems less and less apparent to people coming out of the system, though. And that's part of what is forcing a reckoning, an accounting of the system. And, you have a lot of young people, I think, who haven't snapped out of, let's say things like wokeness per se, but they do know that their, college debt, slavery, wasn't quite the deal that they imagine would take place in a good and healthy world.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because like in a certain age group now, I don't know, I'm looking at things by age group a lot more lately because I'm older. And like, I wonder how much the age groups even are aware how abnormal so much of the normalized shit is. Like paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to get an education. Yeah. That's weird to me. Is that weird to you guys?
That shit.
How much did you pay to learn R?
Yeah, exactly. Just some man hours. Yeah, so it's like bizarro world how medical doctors, let's use Israel for an example. They have to go to school. It's very hard to get into medical school here. You have to go for 7 years of school. And then you have to do your residency and all that shit. And you have to pay an enormous amount of money, I think. I'm not sure exactly how much it is, but a lot of money to fund this. And then when you get out here and you finally start to be able to practice what you've learned, it's mainly just doling out pills by prescription, and you get paid diddly squat here. You can't get out of your debt, but people still enroll. I'm like, why? Okay, why not at least go to a country? I know it's not as easy as just going to another country and starting a medical school program there, but I mean, I don't know. It just seems like utter insanity to me. And you live your entire life accumulating debt, and for what? I don't know. I find the whole thing so weird. I know it's not everyone, but they're still, I see it. It's like people are still trapped in that delusion. It's a delusion that's normal. That's how it is. You have to pay.
It's crept up on us. It's crept up on us.
Right. Yeah, and it became normal too fast, man.
What you said earlier, Jessica, was when the world gets so foggy and you don't know what's cognitive dissonance and what's illusion and what's misinformation and what's disinformation and what's fake and what's real and what's the opposite of what, and do you just think it's the opposite? It does kind of come back to, I mean, it's almost a meditation. It comes back to, okay, like, where am I? It's me, it's Tommy, it's cloudy and rainy today. I went to the gym. I'm doing a podcast with you guys. I'm going to play some video games with my friends later. I'm going to get groceries and I'm going to make dinner. You almost have to get to the point where it's like, if it's not within earshot and eye shot of you, I mean, you can't stick your head in the sand, but at the same time, like, to do anything else is almost, you're taking a huge gamble and assuming there are people like volunteering like on Reddit to go fly to Ukraine and fight and who have got killed. And now things have come out in the last 2 weeks since they've been killed that like the ghost of Kiev doesn't exist. Like the Snake Island thing, all those soldiers survived. There are US biolabs, but their life is done now. Like their existence is over. It's done.
Yeah.
You almost simply logging online and allowing it to sway you even remotely emotionally is a huge gamble, because you don't know what's real. You don't know if you're looking at, like an example, it's almost like the graphics are so good, you don't know if you're looking at a live feed or a video game. But that goes with everything, every news article, and not just about Ukraine, I mean about the world. You almost can't get too sucked in, because to allow it any amount of energy from your mind, emotionally or spiritually or whatever, or even just to stay in your mind rent free, you almost have to only take what is real. Like if I go fill up my water bottle, like I'm filling up my water bottle. It's not the idea of it. And I'm not finding out that it wasn't actually water. Like I'm just going to go fill up my water bottle. You can almost just deal with those immediately around you, those in-person experiences. And, you know, the rest of the world may be on fire, but I mean, if everything's fine in your area, like you might just be like, enjoy that for what it is.
Wow.
You know,
I gotta tell you something. It's like so resonating. This morning, okay, I wake up every morning and I usually have a dream that I remember that I start talking about to my partner, or I just start ranting about the world being on fire. So this morning I woke up and I just sit up in bed and my cat like gives me love. And I start talking to my partner about the what's that word? The profundity of the exchange that I'm having with my cat. So
yeah.
this is living with me. Let's talk about the profundity of the interaction with the cat.
But really,
And I was so serious, because one of the things, it's exactly what you just said. One of the things that I do every day to ground myself in reality, and this is how I see it, to know that what I'm doing is meaningful, because I try and find meaning and purpose in every day, even if it's a shitty day, is I go feed these cats that I've raised from birth that live by these boats. And I notice through the progression of raising them, they depend on me now, but they don't just depend on me for food. They depend on me for love and attention and socialization. When I spend 10 minutes with them, just playing with them in the grass with a string, it changes their whole day. And it doesn't just change their day, it changes how they feel, not just about me, but about other people. They become more sociable, and they wait for me the next day, because I guess they remember that they had a good time or whatever. So it struck me one day, and it's stressful because I'm kind of afraid of commitment, but I realized how important my time with them was, and that it was very meaningful to them, and that it changed their lives for the better. And that makes me feel really good. And it makes me feel, it's like, it's just like my interpretation of what you just said is exactly how I feel about that. It's like these real moments of exchange with a being or a person or Mother Nature, or that's real, that's profound, that's meaningful. Yeah. And I think your comment about the social media, I had to leave Facebook because I couldn't even log in without getting emotional.
yeah,
It was just, that's what it did to me. And you can't avoid that. And you don't have to be an emotional person to have that reaction, because they pay people to make sure that you do have that reaction. They prey on you. They prey on sensitivities, and they, you know, you're meant to get riled up and in a state of hyper sympathetic.
it's to activate your limbic system. I mean,
Right.
I download several social media apps every day to upload my podcast to. People think I'm crazy, and then I delete them and I download them the next day. Takes a couple minutes out of my day, but I cannot leave Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat on my phone, because I'll find no matter what, if I just end up scrolling, which is just what you do if they're there, you start scrolling on
3
them
hours later.
3 hours later. But not only that, you'll start to notice, you'll kind of come to scrolling, and all you're doing is, I don't know, for me, you're just belittling yourself. You're like, I don't live a nearly as great as a life as all these people. And then you're like, but you find yourself like, I'll do that. I'll be getting all worked up at how happy everyone is. And then like, I'll accidentally drop my phone or something. And I'll realize that I'm laying there in a clean bed in an apartment with working air conditioning, a functioning toilet and shower, a refrigerator with fresh
I
food in
said
it.
this yesterday, dude.
And-
There's something weird going on in the universe. I said that exact same thing. An air conditioner, a heater, a roof, a
The lights
bed,
work.
clean
I got a
sheets,
blanket.
lights.
Like I got
Weird.
I got some like slippers and like a phone, like, knock on wood, everyone in my family is alive and healthy. I can pick up my phone and call my
Health.
parents. I got a good night's sleep. And I'm
Yes.
like, I am in what 99.9% of humanity, a king from 1,000 years ago, would
Yes.
rule at the life I live. And
Yes.
here I am, sitting in paradise of electricity and safety, and going, having another kid. Look at that car they got. That house looks nice. And it's like, you're in heaven and you're pissed off at like the color of the napkins on the endless buffet of fresh food. It's like, dude,
Précisément.
I don't know what that means.
It means precisely.
We haven't let Matthew talk. Matthew, we're just berating you with our
talk
stupid.
about heaven.
I'm pissed off that the chef might be poisoning some of the food.
Yeah, the chef might be poisoning some of the food, sure. But
Chef looks shady.
Chef
Let's
looks
face it.
shady. But hey, you know what? We can't, maybe he did, but he hasn't poisoned us yet. And I'm going to appreciate today. That doesn't mean we shouldn't keep an eye on the chef. If he makes a move, fucking shoot him dead. However, there are like great muffins in front of us right now. Like, that's what I mean. Like the cats, like it's real. I don't know what's going on in Ukraine. Is Ukraine the bad guys? Is it Putin? Did America did it? I don't know. But I do know that like I'm gonna call my mom later. Me and my friend are gonna play some video games who I've known since 5th grade. We're gonna laugh. I'm gonna eat dinner. I'm gonna listen to
And
like
do
a
you
podcast.
know what that does to the universe? Not that I know, but what I think it does to the universe is the ripple effect.
Yeah.
Like all of that energetic benevolence, I don't know what to call it.
Yeah.
I believe this. I think that if you're, it's kind of like that, what you think will transmit and blah blah blah, but it's like, I do believe in the energetic output that you give out. If it's with gratefulness, not to sound like a granola, but if you exactly what you just said, if you stand in this moment and understand how freaking lucky you are just to be standing in this moment, even if you're like outside in the rain, if you understand that and you transmit it, then I think you're having some kind of energetically good
Effect.
yes, thank you.
Radiating out.
Ripple effect in the world of beings, because we're all energetic beings, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, like at its most base level, like sometimes when I'll meditate, I'll try to think about like, if like, no, life is good, and then sometimes I'll go even deeper and be like, I exist. Like the fact that for who knows how many hundreds of trillions raised to the trillionth power universes have existed before, or maybe none. But like right now, I get to experience this. And it might go away and there might never be another. But even if it's a shitty day, you're like, I get to experience a stub toe. You're like, that's still it is just like this like limitless fountain of, I mean, really, it's joy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And everything else is kind of okay after that. That doesn't make it any less bad that people's apartments are getting blown up by artillery. But like, I mean, there's really only so much of your mind that you can give to it before it almost feels like you're squandering
Well, especially when you have no way of knowing where to put your energy or your thoughts, because we're being manipulated all the freaking time, as far as I can see,
Yeah.
with bold-faced lies to serve a malevolent purpose, from what I can see.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I'd be the first person to help anyone out who needed help. But I mean, I do that. It's just like what we were talking about. It's like I try and do that locally so that I can actually impose an effect.
Yeah.
So it's like, but yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
do find myself wondering, like, what is the truth of that story? Maybe we'll find out one day.
Yeah, it is that. Like sometimes I'll be doing the podcast in this room, and it's dark and I have lighting, so the lighting's always uniform, and it's like cold. I keep the air conditioner on because the computers get hot. And like sometimes if I'm having like a bad day, I'll start to really start to notice that it's like dark and cold. And I'll start to, like, without even thinking about it, I'll just start to assume that it's dark and cold outside. And then I'll go and get the mail. It's like 4 p.m. and like sunny and like 70. And I'm like, what? It's weird. Like, I thought it was raining outside. And it's like, no, dude, it's like the middle of the summer. You see like a dog running by and like birds chirping and like there's a beautiful sunset. And you're like, it's so warm. And you're like, oh, like that's kind of, for me, it's like the warmness is my own life. And sometimes I get sucked into my phone and like you look through the phone and you're like, oh, it's raining, cold, and sad. And it's like, dude, drop the fucking phone. Like,
Yeah.
if you're on like a beach, but you've just like, and you found like a cooler and you've just stuck your hands in the ice, you're going, it's so cold. It's like, take your hands out of the fucking ice. Like you're on a beach of like limitless sand in every direction. It's sunny. And you're sitting there with your hands in the ice going, it's so fucking cold and no one else knows how cold it is. And it's like, all right, jackass, like you can do that if you want, but no one's doing it to yourself. The only thing that's happening is you're doing it to yourself. It's not reality. Yeah, I don't know.
To spin off of that too, on the whole COVID nightmare thing, like people do need to start realizing how important they are. Like, I think that's a huge problem with our species, like especially now, like people don't understand how relevant they are and how meaningful everything they do every day is. Like it's all that matters. So yeah, I think if we're gonna have a message for today, maybe that should be one for for people. Realize how important you are.
I was gonna
Don't get injections.
Yeah,
Don't get mystery injections.
Yeah,
that mess you up.
I think I'm gonna name the episode what is it? The profundity of what was it?
The profundity of talking to your cat.
I think that's what I'm gonna name it because I don't think
there's one right now. Hello, he understands. He knows how important his butt is to be in the frame.
Hell yeah, dude. The cat doesn't give a shit. The cat does not care about the cat doesn't care about Ukraine or inflation.
Honey Badger doesn't care. Honey Badger doesn't give a shit.
No. Don't say this cat doesn't care about Ukraine. That's not right. We should let this cat decide.
You're right. We should let it. Maybe the cat.
What do you think, dear? Wow, what a loaf. Look at the face in the bowl. You want to say hi to mine? Here, look.
The cat's just like
this one.
Oh God.
This one's a big one.
Oh my God.
Are you mad? Are you gonna bite me now?
What if the cat does care about Ukraine, but just like an ultra national, like Azov battalion supporting cat, and we're all just like, whoa. It's just some neo-Nazi.
Well, I figure the only reason we're online is because the cats are secretly communicating while we're talking. And they're running the world.
Dude, it's the cat podcast. And right now we're all like the pets. They're like, oh, look at the human. But it's really the cats are having a podcast. Jesus.
Yeah, this one's like, would these people just shut the F up and eat some food?
Jesus.
You don't want food.
Matthew, Dr. Rose, let's wrap this one up. My brain's thoroughly cooked. We started with fairs and we ended up with the profundity of cats. I wouldn't have it any other way. And
Oh, no, it's the profundity of talking to
the
cats.
profundity of talking to cats. That's the episode.
Get it right.
Episode 756.
I was told by someone when I first moved here not to talk to cats because it made me look crazy. And I'm like,
who cares?
so be it.
So be it. I will email this episode to you guys when it's up. As always, I would love to do another one. You guys are a trip to talk to. And the kitties. I'll put y'all Substacks and websites. I'll put all that good stuff in the description. Guys, please go check it out. And Matthew, I think you and I have an episode that we still need to hash out, right?
Yeah. I had bronchitis for a weekend for the first time in like 20 years, but yeah, I'm happy to do that sometime. That'll be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Matthew, Dr. Rose, everybody else out there. The profundity of talking to cats. That's what this episode is. Thank you.
Tommy.